Hi friends! Today we are covering one of Viseart Paris's newest additions to their Étendu, their newly released Bijouxette Étendu. But if it's your first time here, hi, I'm Alicia. Thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I'm a fitness professional who loves things, all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. If you want to check out my virtual class schedule or see what else I do behind the scenes, then please sign up for my newsletter down below. A huge thank you to Viseart for sending not only Bijouxette but KINKYSWEAT. I also filmed with this, but I have to redo it because the audio is horrendous. There's a lot of hissing in the background, so I would like to redo the video using KINKYSWEAT. But when I used Bijouxette, I had to get on here right away because upon seeing this palette, I immediately thought of Dark Edit, which is one of my most favorite edit curations from Viseart. And the actual palette design for Bijouxette, I cannot. It's very Art Deco inspired. Here you have Bijouxette on the back, and my apologies, anyone who's French or speaks French, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, please let me know. I know bijou is pronounced bijou, but is the Bijouxette, is the X silent, or do you kind of say jet? Let me know down below, will you fam? We'll go over product details as well as take a look at the swatches and do a couple of demos. How does that sound? With that said, all time stamps will be down below, and you can see the chapters here on the time bar. If you scroll over the bar, you'll see what the chapter's about. Can click over to whatever portion of the video you like. Again, introducing Bijouxette. This retails for $44. It is currently available not only on ViseartParis.com, but Beautylish.com, as well as Sephora, I believe, as well as Muse Beauty Pro, and their biannual sale is coming up soon. So if you have an eye on a few Viseart palettes, I will wait for that sale because they have incredible bundles awaiting us. This has a suggested shelf life of 36 months, made in the US of A. 12 shades total, 18 grams total, or 0.63 ounces total. The Étendu layout is one of Viseart's newest designs. In addition to their Petit 4 palettes, the pan sizes are the same that are found in Theory, but these pan sizes are a little bigger than the Edit size. So here is Dark Edit. You can see the difference in sizes, that the Étendu, although bigger, still slim overall, which why I think this format is ideal for travel. But if you're one to love eyeshadow palettes but not particularly a fan of the bigger ones out there, then this would be perfect. Opening Bijouxette up. Look at this beautiful layout of color. I have to read the description because I think it perfectly lays out the inspiration. Enter a world of untold riches and opulent splendor this season with our newest and most sumptuous Étendu yet. This rich collection of multifaceted gems will sparkle with joy and refract light on even the darkest winter's night. Inspired by the now archived Pro Palette Bijou Royale. I forgot to bring that one to Maddie's house, if you haven't noticed already where I'm at. Our new Bijouxette Étendu is a treasure trove of Baroque baubles. You will tell by the shade names, this is very much inspired by Art Deco period, 1920s, roaring 20s, very opulent, very vibrant in the color story, and I immediately thought of Dark Edit, which officially is my most favorite edit curation out of all that are offered from Viseart. And side by side, if looking at please don't fall, I would say Dark Edit more muted because you have the navies and the olives in there, and you have more of the purples and golds found in Bijouxette. So why don't we get into these swatches? But before I do, I just have to give a huge shout out to Viseart Paris, because when you go onto their website, not only do they have the shade descriptions, but under each, they have a tip as to how to use that shade, whether through the crease or all alone, or you could pair it with the other shades in here. I think that is incredibly helpful, especially if you're just getting into eyeshadow and maybe you're recommended to start with Viseart and you're like, which one do I put on? What's happening? They give you tips as to how to apply each shade where on your lid to do so. I think that is incredibly helpful and just shows how Viseart Paris goes above and beyond to help their consumers use their product. First up, we have Nouveau. Mid-tone beige taupe with a matte finish. Ruby. Warm wine tone with a matte finish. Carnelian. Demi-matte mid-tone pumpkin orange with flecks of reflectivity. Scandalous. A teal metallic duochrome. Ooh, that's pretty. I only used a few of these shades yesterday, so didn't completely do all the swatches then. That's a pretty teal. Speakeasy. I can't say that word. Speakeasy. Speakeasy. A burnt dark chocolate with a matte finish. Prohibition. Antique gold with a demi duochrome metallic finish. Sidecar. Warm mid-tone toffee with a matte finish. Sequins. Mid-tone golden amber with the metallic finish. Deco. Raspberry metallic finish. Cubism. Sapphire blue with a demi duochromatic metallic finish. Jade. Majestic green with metallic finish. And lastly, we have Velveteen. Mid-tone purple with a demi duochromatic metallic finish. So here are all the swatches for Bijouxette. I think quite nice, not only in including a lot of the warm shades, but the warm shades here have punch. For instance, Ruby, it has like this beautiful wine shade that I wore yesterday. I'll try to recreate the look today, but I'm curious to follow the instructions provided by Viseart Paris because I would love to know what look inspirations they had in mind or they suggested in presenting these tips. And if you don't know about Viseart, they are a pro brand, but maybe was it 2-3 years ago? I don't know the timeline exactly, but they started to introduce these style palettes where it was more consumer friendly because usually their 12 pan pro palettes have a clear lid, more modest in packaging, but the distinction is that these palettes only house one finish at a time. You either have all mattes, all satins, all metallics. And in a pro setting, you have to make sure those textures are not mixed because if you're working on whether television, photo, movie, and whoever you're working on has to have an exclusively matte look, a little bit of sparkle can ruin the entire thing. When you're dealing with lights and cameras, that could throw off the entire shot. So ensuring that these textures do not get mixed and sabotage whatever project they're working on, that's the more pro approach in terms of the packaging. But they realized that not everyone's working on a movie set. The consumers love to have metallics and mattes all in the same palette. That just makes it easier to use, to mix together, to create nice comprehensive looks. Not only did they start to mix textures together, but they presented thoughtfully intelligent color stories that are easy to use for anyone who decides to dip into a Viseart palette. Different formats, 8 shadows, 12 shadows, and I think this is, with the greens and the blues, but also the wine colors and the toffees in here, it's really pretty. And the Viseart matte formula is by far, if not the best matte formula out there. Debatable, I know. Very easy to blend for a beginner and professional alike. But what I think is noteworthy about their mattes, as you will see in the demos, is that however they look in pan, they will look like that on your lid, especially with the color Speakeasy. Like, it will show up just like that, because some dark mattes, I'm sure if you experience this, I have, look super dark in the pan, but as soon as you plop it on another matte on your lid, it like just disappears. There's no stick, there's no adherence, there's no color richness, it just kind of fades away. Now with Viseart mattes, especially of this depth, please, they don't know about that life. I gotta take off this flannel. Ooh, and I didn't mess up the swatches. Way to go. Now that we've laid out the details, why don't you come in a little closer? That's enough. I also have some artificial light on because, strangely, in Barry's apartment, although I'm in front of 2 windows, because of how the light angle is, it's not coming through the way it comes through at my window back at home. So my apologies, don't want to catfish y'all, but it will be a little too dark. So that's why I have some light on in front of me, as a disclaimer. Okay, and I also wanted to mention, even though the design is more consumer friendly, they still have that pro element by including a magnetic frame with the grooves throughout the pan. So if you have more than one, Étendu palette. You can switch between the pans as you like. You want all purples in one palette or everything warm in one palette. You can have a ball. Eyelids are prepped, and why don't we start at the beginning? Let's go in with Nouveau. Beige taupe can be used all over the base shade for light to medium skin tones and to contour and define the crease, or on all skin tones it could be mixed with other shades in the palette for a signature look. Let's take a look. Going in with the Angie and BK Beauty Hot and Flashy collab. I'm trying to use synthetic eye brushes more so I can just experience both natural hair and synthetic. I do enjoy this particular brush because it's very tapered and fluffy, so there's a little more movement here for me. So that's Nouveau. Really nice shade to put in the crease. I think I used this yesterday, and you can see how incredibly easy these mattes are to blend. The way they just blur and slide across the skin is remarkable. Next up is Ruby, and they suggested that you put this, where am I reading? Can be brushed into the crease, outer corners of the eye for dimensional wash of color. It can be mixed with the other matte tones and blended into the gold and copper tones to create new hues. Use a wet brush to create depth and dimension or wear as an eyeliner. Do not have any of my mixing mediums with me, but I will follow up with brush number 502. I actually placed Ruby on the outer corners of the eye, and I thought this to be a gorgeous shade. You can see the impact immediately when touching down with this color. And although red in tone, it has like an earthiness to it that I feel makes it, especially when mixed with Nouveau, a little more daily friendly than you might assume otherwise. So you see how though it's red, but it's gorgeous. It reminds me of that red found in a Suku palette that it was a part of their, I think, spring 2021. I love that red tone too. It had like impact, similar color, but as Viseart suggested, when mixed with another matte, the color is kind of grounded. And that's something else that I admire about Viseart mattes, is that when they mix together, they don't turn muddy, they just turn into a different color, which speaks to the formula and how these pigments are created so that no matter how you layer or put together these shades, it will not be a disaster. So the insurance, fam, okay, is what you're paying for. For Carnelian, here we go. Demi Matte Orange Midtone as an all-over base shade to contour, define the crease, or mix in with other shades in the palette for a signature look. Can we use with a damp brush? Now, when I used this yesterday, the flecks in here don't translate as well on the lid as you see them in pan. So if I were to just take a fluffy brush here, that's more on the flat side. This is the Hakuhoro from their holiday collection. Look how pretty the handles are. This is a all goat hair brush. So I'm picking up some of Carnelian. I'm placing that on the border of Ruby. Now, you can still see a little bit of the sparkle, maybe not on screen, but when put in front of a light, you have that glimmer effect from the gold flakes in there. They're not going to look like a metallic or sparkly shade, a traditionally formulated one, but they are present here when you do apply the shade on the lid. I believe the color I went in with next was this one here, Prohibition. Let's take a shader brush, and I'm sure they suggest the same thing, whether they suggest to place this all over the lid. I'm placing it on the inner part of the eye, overlapping it with Carnelian, because I think that makes it so beautiful in terms of the gradient it presents. And also, I mean, I'm giving you autumn vibes with this eye. Look how beautiful that gradient is. I can't stand it. Also taking Sequins, which is more golden, and I'm placing that on the actual inner corner of the eye over Prohibition. So we get more of that gold hue, and I'm pulling it under the inner part of my lash line. Now 504 from the Hot and Flashy collab. Great brush for the under eye. Back in with Ruby, and I'm hitting that on the outer part of my lower lash line. Let's bring it all the way across, shall we? And then back in with Nouveau, grazing the edges of Ruby so that we could not only smoke it out, but bring it to that color that exists on the lid here, so it could kind of match up to the new hue that we created. Also pulling that brush through the crease to bring everything together. Back in with Carnelian, just a little bit, because I want to bring that color a touch higher here. I think this is a great combination. Look how beautiful that is. Despite how red this looks in the pan, you can definitely get away with an everyday type of a thing with that color. All right, now on the other side, I definitely want to go ham with more of the blues, yeah, because, oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I got a little excited. I do want to briefly show how beautiful Speakeasy is because, as I mentioned before, we already have plenty of mattes here. If I take Speakeasy and tap it on the outer part of the lid, what did I say? It shows up to the pate. It's going to deepen that color and maintain its richness and intensity and not blend away. That's what I'm saying. And why Viseart mattes, I just feel, are so superior to several matte formulas out there. We just completely steer the look to be way more smoky than how we started with, all because of the introduction of Speakeasy. Now, what you could have done is maybe use Speakeasy as a liner, like a shadow liner on top of Ruby and Novu instead of going full throttle like I did. Or you could take a little bit of Ruby now and just brush the edges of Speakeasy, so some of that red can still show through. Okay, back to the teals. Well, I saw something with Deco. Let me hear. The raspberry. Mid-tone raspberry as an all-over the lid color or layer over your favorite matte or shimmer. Can be foiled with a mixing medium. Pairs perfectly with the shade Velveteen. Okay, let's take Deco. I'll take it with my Hakuhodo brush, plop it on the majority of my lid first, and then use the edge of the brush to blur the edges. Although metallic, Viseart metallics are very soft, so see how easily you can blend this shade, how the edges blur and they look diffused without you having to use a matte. If you did, you could use any of these, I think, successfully if you wish to introduce a matte to this color story. But look at that, I'm so done. All over the lid, you're done. You're done. You don't have to go crazy like I did with that eye. But good to know that Deco can be your one and done moment. They have said that Velveteen could be something. Let me plop that on the outer part of the lid here. Now, Velveteen definitely has more sparkle than Deco. Deco is the more modest of the metallics housed in here. So if you were expecting razzle dazzle, I would say Velveteen has more of that razzle dazzle, more so than Deco. But even though I can still successfully blend the shade in the same way that I can with a matte, and have control. Oh, that's pretty. I love those two together. Thanks, Viseart. Velveteen has pretty blue sparkles in the formula. That's a nice combination. I like that. Ooh, I definitely want to go in with Jade. I think I want to use Jade as the inner corner moment. I like it. We could stick with Jade. We could have used Scandalous too, the more teal color here. That's a thing. Oh, but I like that though. Why not, however, use Scandalous for our lower lash line shade of choice. This is a Hakuhodo pencil brush found also in their holiday collection. Just bringing it, oh, hi. This is a thicker brush than one would use maybe for lash line application, but I like my lash line colors to drop a little bit, to look a little hazy. Let me take a smaller brush and now plop back in Jade, but here on the very inner corner of the lower lash line, I'm actually also refining the application here on the inner corner near the top lid. I couldn't get that out. Now, just to show you, and I'll do it on this eye, I'll go in with Speakeasy and plop it on the lash line, and despite it being layered over all these shades, it will still show up. Now, granted, you'll have a stronger presentation of color if you decide to lay this on a liner. right? It just shows its true chocolate brown color on top of the raspberry shade. It's not going to be as pronounced as it would have been here, but it still holds its own. It doesn't disappear completely, which I find noteworthy and an excellent representation of the Viseart quality again. All right, I'm gonna plop on some lashes and I'll be right back. And here's a wider shot of both looks. I am completely in love with this color story. I don't know if I love it more than Dark Edit, because with Dark Edit, you have the supporting matte shades that further amplify the greens and the magentas in here, like olive with this color, navy either with the magenta, or surprisingly when paired with the copper or the gold, still works out. Don't ask me how. The mattes are more warm toned in here, and because of that, I would solely rely on the metallic shades to create and build upon each other for that separate look, right? Because I'm a fan of fully committing to the more vibrant shades found in Bijouxette, because when you pair a more vibrant shade with an earthier one, it brings down the vibrancy a little bit, which is cool if you want best of both worlds. But I love these shades on their own, and that's why I love to layer them as is. But you do have the mattes here to pair with the more warm tone metallics. Again, you can definitely apply Nouveau and Sidecar with the teal, with velveteen, jade, sapphire. What is it called? Cubism. For instance, with Scandalous, you can just see from how it blends on the skin how it would appear on the lid. Just how we blended Al Deco, you could do the same thing with Scandalous. Absolutely. It could be more intense like that, or more washed out if you want like that more veil effect across the lid. And then you compare that either with Jade or with the more golden tone here. So any of those combinations will work. Again, Viseart did all the thinking on our behalf. So however you combine these shades, it's gonna be pretty. And that is it, my friends. Let me know if you have your eye on Bijouxette, if you have picked it up already, what your experience has been, how you like it in comparison to the other Étendu palettes that have been released. Again, a huge thank you to Viseart Paris for being so generous and sending me this palette. If you want another video doing more looks, so we just spend time doing looks and we already have the details out the way, which again you can find in this video, let me know down below. And until then, fam, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Viseart Paris Palette Extravaganza, monthly favorites, or vlog. Take care, and I will see you again soon.